What is up, everyone, and welcome back to the REFSIX podcast, where today we're going to be talking about the UK versus the US and how refereeing differs in each of the countries. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Elliot Katz. Um, Elliot, let's dive straight in. One of the things that's different between for you to me is that you've refereed in both countries, the UK and the US. So, talk to me about, refereeing in the US and how it's slightly different or your perceived differences to start with.
Well, obviously, there's a lot that's the same, isn't there? Right? It's still this. We're still using IFAB. We're still on a rectangular pitch and a round ball, but there are subtle differences, I guess, on the cultural side comparing one country to another. I would say that my comparison, it's more London to New York,
Yep.
which those are the two places where I've done the majority of my reffing, especially in New York. So to the extent that I can talk about the UK, my observations are going to be based on London and New York, and then there might be people from Ohio, Kentucky, Florida, California that say, well, no, this is different. There's still a referee shortage, I would say, in New York, as there is in London and the UK, but that manifests itself slightly differently. So let's say in the UK, games are, I'd say, spread out. There's a lot of one-man crews. I'm talking about the grassroots level. And as a referee on a weekend, you might get sent to one field to do one game. Here's your £40. Here are your expenses. And that's you done for the day. You might have that Saturday, Sunday. Now, in New York, there's a referee shortage. There's also a field shortage. You can imagine in such a built-up area, there's a limited number of 11-a-side fields. So what happens is that an assigner will send a referee to a field to start their first game early on. They'll base themselves at that field or the field adjacent to it, if there is one. And they will just be a conveyor belt of games after games. So it's normal for refs in New York to have multiple games to back to back.
That's interesting.
In England, I don't know that I had more than one or two in a day. My record in New York is 4 90-minute games in one day, back to back to back. That's without assistant referees, full field. So I speak to other referees. That's normal. Some do 5, 6, 7 in a day, Saturday and Sunday. So that would be one big difference, specifically comparing somewhere like New York with UK, where there are fields everywhere.
Interesting. You mentioned something about assigners. What are they? What do they do? Brief me about that. It's not something we have in the UK, or brief me on that process of assigners. What are they?
So to be an assigner, you need to take a specific course. It's a qualification, just like you need to be qualified to be a referee or a coach. There's an assigners course. So assigners are like the broker. So they have contacts at the leagues and the competitions. Here's our schedule. We need these games filled. And then the assigner has their referees that they get from their network and their local association. And they'll try and find the right referee for the right game based on experience, location, reliability, and so on.
Interesting. And how do they? So we have, say, league administrators, or referee administrators here, and we get the games on a spreadsheet every week. Sunday league, we get it on a spreadsheet. If we get games from the FA, we get it on a system called MOAS. Is that the same in the US, or how do you get your games assigned to you?
I'd say it's more fractured and decentralized over here. So you'll have multiple assigners. So I can talk about it, I guess, from the referee's point of view.
Yeah.
If I'm doing high school, I've got a particular assigner that does the high school assignments. He's the guy I go to get my high school games. And then for USSF competitions, the equivalent of your county FA administrator, I suppose, there might be one assigner does this competition, another assigner does this competition. It's a bit of a complicated jigsaw puzzle. made even more complicated by the fact that they're not always using the same assigning software.
Yeah.
So the possibility for conflicts arises quite often. And as a referee, you have to be, we're in the UK, we're familiar with closing out your dates. Well, you have to close out your dates for all the assigners that you work with to ensure that you don't inadvertently pick up two assignments that clash, and then you've got to give one back. A common complaint that I hear from assigners about referees is that they keep all their availability open. They wait for all the assignments, and then they'll pick the best one and turn back the others. And that puts the assigners in a difficult position. It suffers from a lack of centralization in terms of the numbers of assigners, as well as a lack of a centralized platform that everyone uses and is visible to all. So it's a bit of a tricky jigsaw puzzle.
It is. And I know obviously REFSIX has just announced that we've partnered with Ref Insight and Assigner, so that if you as an assigner or a referee, if you use those systems, you can get your game straight into the app as well. So that's obviously great in terms of having it all in one central place as well. Yes. So if you do want to download the app, there's a link in our description as well, to save time on admin as well, so you don't have this issue. And we're looking to partner with more and more assignment platforms as they come. But it sounds very different in the US compared to the UK. Even at the grassroots level, you have an app where you can get your appointments and stuff. Whereas in the UK, it's very much archaic, should I say? You're suffering with, like you say, decentralization. We're suffering from this archaic system where you get a spreadsheet, you find your name on that spreadsheet, and then you put your game into REFSIX, and then it's just everywhere. And then, like you say, we suffer with the same problem of having to close our dates with multiple places, in terms of there's a system here for the FA, there's a system here for Sunday League, there's a system here for Mid Sussex League, and it just gets a bit messy. So you're right, I think we suffer with this fractured thing as well. Maybe not as much as the US, but it does sound like the admin side of getting appointments is difficult, and therefore that's why REFSIX, there's that one platform where it's all going forward. But that's interesting. So that's obviously the really boring admin stuff out of the way. So let's talk about how to develop as a referee. For us, I feel like it's quite a straightforward system here in the UK. You start as a level Y, they call it, a trainee referee. You do 5 games and then you become a level 7. Between level 7 and level 5, you have to do, I think it's like 4 observations and like 40 games. And you can go from level 7 to level 5. And then from level 5 to level 4, it's the same. You have 4 observations, 20 games. And then, as a level 4, you then get put in a pool, and then you can go up level 3, level 2, level 1. And then when you get to level 1, you can get onto the select group, which is the Premier League. So for us, it feels like we know the system. The system is there for us to look at if we want it. And it's very open and transparent in how to be promoted and how to get to the top. But I know nothing about the MLS on if I wanted to be an MLS referee. So talk to me about, going from a grassroots to a regionals to a national to a pro referee.
Again, there's a lot of similarities with the UK, and it's changed since I moved here. I moved here in 2017, and at the time, the levels were a lot like the UK, where there were a lot of small levels, and you can actually progress quite quickly within a season or two from one to the next. And then in recent years, it's changed so that instead of all those 7 or 8 levels, you enter as a grassroots official. You can be as young as 14, I think it is. When I did the USSF certification here, this was 2018, I would say, pre-COVID. I went to a classroom. It was over the course of a weekend. In hours and hours, you're looking at the laws of the game. And then we mentioned assigners before. At the end of the grassroots course, there are assigners there. It's your first chance to connect with an assigner and get on their network. And then you're eligible to start picking up assignments. It will start with youth games. If you're a brand new referee, you'll start with youth, and then you can progress to higher level youth, lower level adults. And within that grassroots level, there are quite a few mini progressions that you can make without official promotions. Yeah. And then there's no fitness test required for that. Nowadays, it's an online module followed by a field session, and
Interesting.
the field, the field session is, here's a flag, here's how you wave it, here's how you stand, here's how you show a yellow card, stuff that you would get at the field sessions in the UK. I remember that being quite similar as well. To go from grassroots to regional, there's a fitness test. You have to apply for it. You get assessed a certain number of games over the course of a season. And then you have to, as a regional referee, maintain your status with the annual fitness test. Again, I think that's something that's similar with the levels at the high levels at the UK. And then from regional to national, you'd have expected to have spent a few years at regional and then apply for the national. Again, there's the fitness test is higher standard. There's a lot of mentoring and coaching and assessments and observations. And then beyond national, there's a sideways move into pro, the Professional Referees Organization, and that's by selection. Pro is where you have the MLS2 and the MLS, the pro leagues, and some semi-pro competitions as well, and that's by selection. And from there, the next jump would be FIFA and beyond.
So it's three, basically, correct me if I'm wrong, three promotions, and I could be a professional referee in the USA.
Yes. Well, it's grassroots, regional, national. But that's not to say in 2025, here, John, welcome, you're a grassroots referee. 2026, you're a regional now, and then 2027. No, it's still, there's years. And look, the refs that end up as MLS referees, the ones that you see on, in the pro leagues here, they'll have done their grassroots course when they were 14. They'll have been fast tracked through the levels. So that those are the ones that start early, excel, get promoted. And, it's still, 12, 15 years probably of reffing before they end up at pro. That's an estimate.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It seems strange. We go through 7 different levels before we even consider it. You go through 3 and you could be there, but each one seems to take slightly longer. 4 sections, you spend years at each one. But yeah, interesting, right. Really interesting.
And that's not to say there isn't progression within each of our levels, right? That's the point. I think we discussed on the last podcast about looking for opportunities to officiate at the next highest level. And that's, I guess, one of the benefits of the having the fewer levels is that within the level, there's a lot of room to test yourself, push yourself, and grow within the level before you officially get promotion.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. No, that's good. So, if you do want to become a referee and you are listening to this as a player or a coach and are interested in being a referee, we'll put a link in the description if you want to be a referee from the US or the UK and you want to get involved. We'll put something down in the description as well because you never know where it's going to take you without clanging too much. I was at Wembley last year, so you never know where it will take you. So yeah, we'll leave some links in the description. The next thing I want to talk about is something that I don't think is talked about a lot, is the sort of cultural perception of referees in the UK, which I would say we're very much pantomime villains, and the US. So you've obviously experienced both as a referee in the UK and the US. What is the perception of referees over in the US compared to the UK?
It's a good question. I'll caveat that if I'm speaking from personal experience,
absolutely,
that's of me as an English referee on US soil. They hear my accent, and I probably get a little bit of undeserved credit just because they hear my accent and think, he's from England. That's where they invented this silly little game. Maybe he knows a thing or two, right? So, if there is a cultural issue with referees in the US, personally, I haven't really suffered from it. So I'm a little bit lucky. It's partly to do with the accent, partly, hopefully to do with some competence on my part, I hope. But any competent referee still suffers from adversity and criticism and abuse and so on. But I would say that the greatest problem here for officials is at the youth level, and the problem is more touchline parents. We get these 14, 15-year-old kids who people here love the game just as much as they do in UK and Europe. So these kids want to be a referee and they want to earn a little bit of pocket money. They get into it for all the right reasons. They do their online course. They pass a module that's multiple choice, open book. It's quite hard not to pass. They then get given a whistle and say, right, now go ref these 9-year-olds. But they're not prepared for the verbals that come from the touchline from people that could be their parent or grandparent. They just don't have the experience to cope with that. And we lose those referees. It's unpleasant for them. After a year or two, they drop out the system. So retention is a problem. So youth and school soccer, football, it is a problem. And I do see it. I do see it, even though I can't say I've experienced it too much. It is a problem here.
Interesting. So you say it's more the youth starting, realizing that the abuse is too much and then dropping out.
Yeah. Now, I think there might be a few reasons for that. One is in the UK, grassroots football is heavily subsidized. For a kid to join a team, it's not a huge amount of money. For an adult player to join a team, it's not a lot of money. Clubs get funding from the FA and other charities, So in the US, it's not so subsidized. It's not cheap. Parents that fork out hard-earned money for their kid to play for a team for a year, there's a sense, I don't know, of entitlement, but there's almost like an expectation that you want a return on investment. I paid all this money for this kid. I want them to be coached, and
the standard
unreasonably,
they
want, all right, I want the decision. I'm paying for this. I want the decision. So referees are being judged as if they are waiters getting an order wrong.
And even that's wrong.
So that's part of the issue. It's financial. It's more expensive to play in the US.
I've not had I remember being a youth referee and having this issue. I can remember it vividly that I rocked up to, I think I was 14. I rocked up to an under 13s game, and the coach came up to me and was like, "Are you even able to do this kind of level of football?" And I remember, luckily, my dad was there, and my dad was like, "What's the point? Like, he's just about to referee, and you've basically ruined him from minute one." And we talk about football being an occasion, and even under 14s, for them, it's everything.
Yeah.
But especially even at Sunday League, like, when I come down to Sunday League, you're playing with players that are hungover, that, they're ragged short anyway because they've got a headache. And, these are the kind of things that, you can lose the love for it. I'm in a very privileged position where I love walking out with a team of 3. I've got a nice changing room. I'm very, not, I think pampered is the wrong word, but I do have that privilege, but also I have that pressure as well. And, I think what the Pedro Moel said a couple of weeks ago to us was, pressure is a privilege and we have to accept that it comes with it. But, we have the fans that are behind a fence that can't touch us. And, that's different on a Sunday where it's you on your own. And I think that abuse of, it doesn't matter what you do as a referee, you're always going to annoy at least 11 people, probably 12 if you include the manager. That constant battle of feeling like you're wrong, it's not fun. And I can understand why referees don't want to do that anymore. And that's what I think the problem is in the UK, is that we are fighting a losing battle all the time but that's wrong. And what they see on the TV now is not a different game, but it is becoming different with VAR, and law changes are, in design of the sort of pro game. And we can't keep up with that at grassroots level. For example, double touch. As a referee, how are you supposed to monitor keeper movement, encroachment, double touch, hitting the crossbar, and then coming back to the same player? That's 6 things with one person. Like, that double touch thing is the last thing on my mind if I'm a grassroots referee. So, the referees are getting more pressure in terms of delivering the right outcomes. And I just think we need to settle down and find the love and find why we enjoy it. Again,
I think you made so many good points there, John, especially as, we're this sense that we're fighting a losing battle. Now, with the Whistle Stop Footy, my channel, that I've been running the last couple of years. My main aim is to bridge gaps between referees and players. My focus isn't necessarily on clip analysis. Is this a foul? Is it a handball? I've done some of that, but it's more showing non-referees what it's like to be a referee. I have my POV, I have my mic, you can hear me, you can see what I see. And it's fascinating as much for non-players as it is for non-referees as it is for referees. And I'm hoping that players see what it's like to be a referee, having to make a decision in the moment with all the problems that you and I are familiar with, so that at least the players can watch that and go, do you know what? That makes sense. That makes sense. And I quite regularly get players that follow my channel. They want to talk to me about an incident that happened to them in their game. They want the referee's point of view. I think there is a strong desire, I guess I know this anecdotally, a strong desire for players to understand and empathize with referees. We've just got to tap into it a little bit more. I posted a clip not too long ago of a penalty, and it was taken. The keeper's feet were okay. It was saved, and then it was scored from the rebound. And on closer inspection, you could see maybe there was encroachment, but this was just me by myself. And there's, my commentary along with the clip was, like you said, these are all the things that we have to be focused on. And it's impossible for one person to focus in the highest definition on keeper's feet on the goal line and encroachment on the edge of the 18. It's not possible that without some sort of a trade-off. So players watching that will be like, oh my God, that's hard. Maybe there's encroachment, but making an error doesn't entail incompetence on the part of the referee.
I completely agree. And I think there's two elements in all of this. Yeah. So you've got the football player side and the referee side. And from a football player, when you're angry and in the moment, you see it very much. You messed up and this is why. And we then try and explain, this is what I've seen and how I've interpreted it. And if we can get to that conclusion together in terms of, look, I might be wrong, but this is why. And that's what I try and say in all my pre-matches with the captains and the managers. It's like, I'd rather you leave the ground with a decision that we may not agree with, but at least you understand why I've given it. This is what I've seen in that moment. This is how I've explained it. They may not agree with it. And I can understand, one of my things I hate the most is I have played football, contrary to what most football players have told me. When you look to play an advantage, blow the whistle and you could have played, and it's a sinking feeling. And I think if we can all come together and be like, this is why, this is our thought process through that, then I think from both sides of the pond, sounds like it will be much easier.
And the challenge we have is getting that message across, that communication, without delivering a whole monologue. We don't want to be taking up players' time. They want to get on with the game. They don't want to hear a whole speech from us. So it's about doing it in a real clear, succinct way where people leave with respectful disagreement. That's perfectly fine with me. Yeah. Clarity and respectful disagreement. And players, in my experience, greatly appreciate and value very highly a referee who can just communicate with players in a transparent way. It shows that we are focused and engaged. And I think that definitely works well with players.
Well, one of my coaches, when I was moving through the ranks, he's still my coach actually, used the ABC method when talking to players and referees when you're using comms kit. But it's always be concise, be short, concise with players. No foul, no contact. Yeah, not enough contact. Use football terms. I think we get caught up in especially in England, the sustained holding, mutual holding. The players don't know what we're learning behind the scenes. Just say no, it's not enough to impact you. Those are the kind of words they're looking for. So be concise, speak like footballers, and then you'll get there.
And look, we could have a perfectly constructive and reasonable conversation outside of the game between referees and players, but in the game, we're dealing with emotional characters. That Absolutely. They don't care about our facts, but somehow we have to care about their feelings as well as the facts. And our communication, it's definitely a fine art. And there are
Exactly.
books I've
Like,
read not about reffing and communication, but about communication where there are pervasive skills that absolutely apply towards refereeing. Ways to deflect a player's anger and aggression off the decision and plant a little bit of doubt. So now they're questioning themselves, not in an undermining way, but in a just, okay, maybe maybe I thought I had this level of certainty, but okay, maybe not so much.
yeah, like we say, it's not just football, it's an event, an occasion, no matter what game that is, from grassroots to the Premier League or to the MLS. You're managing the occasion. But I think that moves us on quite nicely to, one of our last topics, which is, the challenges for each. So you were talking earlier about there aren't enough pitches in the US. Is
Hmm.
that the same with there aren't enough referees to cover games at grassroots level, especially? It's a trickle, isn't it? If you're good enough, you'll be taken from the league above, and then if you're taken from the league above, it means somebody else is good enough to be taken from the league above you, and so therefore the pool of non-league football gets diminished, and then Sunday league people fall out of love with it, and we definitely are short of referees in England. We
Hmm.
have plenty of pitch cover. We aren't covering, especially youth football. I don't think a lot of youth football is being covered by a referee. It's being covered by a parent now or a
Hmm.
volunteer. Are you suffering, do you think, with the same problem in the US, or is it just the pitch problem?
Interesting. No, there is a referee shortage, I would say. We could always do with more referees. Although I would say that we seem to have enough grassroots referees to at least cover matches without coaches having to ref it. So I think we've got grassroots youth games covered with grassroots referees. I don't think we're having enough referees going from grassroots to regional. So I think there's a little bit of a shortage at the next level where they need quality experienced referees for those higher level amateur adult games. And
Yeah.
because of the shortage, grassroots referees are being elevated maybe before they're ready.
Yeah.
And the negative effect you can have there is they're a bit out of their depth and, abuse, dissent, lack of progression, then, people dropping out at that stage. So I think what we can work on is the progression and mentoring of referees at grassroots levels so that we can produce more regional and then more national referees.
Yeah. No, I like that. So yeah, I think we're short on youth football, and I think maybe the way to do that, like I say, fix the problem. I don't know about what that problem is do we get every new referee, whether you're, as long as you're DBS checked, do 5 youth games and then 5 adult games, and then you qualify as a referee? Because then we're covering youth games all the time. People get used to it. Blowing a whistle is, for the first time, it can be quite weird. So maybe that's the way to do it in England. I don't know. But, it just sounds like we just need more people to get involved. And a nice way to try and get people involved, I think, to talk about the opportunities in refereeing. Like, you were talking about MLS, it's 4 promotions or 3 promotions to become an MLS referee. Are they full time? Is there, what other, like, where can refereeing take you in the US?
At that MLS level, yes, they are professional. I don't know the salaries. I don't know if they're juggling reffing with other work, but the size of the country, it's enormous. If you're just doing 2 games a week, that could take up your whole week of game day, traveling there and back. That's a huge amount of time. So just because of the size of the country at national level, I don't know how a referee could juggle 1 or 2 matches a week with another job. So that's a question, not an answer, that I'm popping back. But yeah, it's quite a small pool at the very top of the referee pyramid here in this country of those working the MLS level. There's the VAR side of things. Now, we all know Howard Webb joined PGMOL a couple of years ago, but before that, he joined PRO, became general manager of PRO, and he implemented VAR, I would say, very successfully in the MLS.
I agree.
It was on the strength of that I think that he was able to transition back to the UK. MLS has been at the cutting edge of these technological advancements, and there are opportunities for referees on that side of things, I guess, not just on the field but off the field in innovations and the VAR side of things.
What about tournaments and college football? That seems to be a big thing in the US. Talk to me about, the opportunities to referee in front of thousands of people at college level, or, these cool tournaments that you have. We don't really have those in the UK. Like, what kind of opportunities are out there?
Yeah, I'm a high school. I was high school certified. I wasn't college certified, but we don't quite have an equivalent in the UK and Europe to the college system over here. They get big attendances. It depends on the sport, depends on the division and the size of the college, but potentially you're playing in front of thousands in stadiums. The coaches, the athletic directors, are getting paid six-figure salaries to coach a college team. So it's a big deal over there, and college referees are well remunerated. Something that we haven't touched on previously that we could have done is the game fees at grassroots level and beyond. Comparing again London with New York, an adult amateur game in London might be 45, 50 pounds for a middle.
Yeah. And
that same level of game here in New York, the referee fee went up quite recently, but you're looking at $100, $120 for one match.
Wow.
And considering that we could do 3-4 games a day, there's the potential to earn more money reffing as a side hustle in the US compared to England.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
And college referees are paid hundreds for assignments.
Wow. So basically, I'm going to come over to the US and make refereeing a full-time job.
Book your flight.
Yeah, book my flight now. All right, so I'm going to ask you one question, and I want our listeners to answer this question as well. As a little poll, we'll put it on social media. Where do you think it's harder to referee? Do you think it's harder to referee in the UK or the US?
Personally, I don't notice much of a difference, honestly.
Yeah.
Now, that answer might be different if you don't have my accent.
Interesting, yeah.
Right? An American refereeing in America might struggle in a way that I don't struggle, purely based on my accent. An American coming over to referee in England might struggle even more if they're confronted with people that their first thought is, America, they call it soccer. Why, what does this referee know? So I'd be interested to hear the experience of American referees officiating in England. My personal experience, and I've had the chance to bounce back and forth between the countries, and I've been looking to answer that question in America. How am I going to be treated as a ref? All right, now that I'm coming back to London, am I going to benefit in the same way as I did in the US, or are they going to give me a hard time because I'm just some schmuck with a whistle? Personally, I haven't noticed much of a difference. I think what you said before, every game is an occasion.
Yeah.
I think I as a referee, I feel that as well. There isn't a game where I haven't looked forward to and enjoyed, whether it's youth, adult, one man and his dog, hundreds in the crowd. I engage with every game. I'm always engaging with the players. It's the thing that I love most about reffing. And I think it's the thing that players appreciate most in a referee. So when I'm in the zone engaging with players, it doesn't matter if I'm in New York or London.
Interesting. I'm going to say the UK just because I've never reffed in the US, but I am going to say the UK. Just it does feel like even the lower levels of football are always going to be, say, slightly higher standard. But, like you say, we've adopted this game and developed it more. So I'm going to go with the UK because I think even the lower you go, the football is going to be of faster, quicker, slightly more tactically aware, I would say. But I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to let people know in the comments whether I'm right or wrong. But
John,
Elliot,
come over, bring your whistle, and we'll put it to the test.
I agree. I'd love to do that. And I think, with the World Cup next year, I think there's a great opportunity for us to do something like that. But Elliot,
I
thank
was
you very
just,
much for your time
you're welcome.
today. As always, I think this has been a great chat. And I think it's great, to talk about the differences. So if there's any other country that you want a referee to get us on, let us know in the comments. So if you want someone from Australia, someone from Japan, from Germany, from France, let us know. We'd love to have a chat with them. But as always, thanks very much for watching or listening. If you're listening on audio devices, if you could like and subscribe to this channel as well, so we can keep this podcast going and bring more guests and get it bigger and better, that'd be great. But we will see
And
you at
please
the next.
also have a look
Oh
at
yeah,
Whistle Stop Footy as well. That's where you'll find me. That's where you'll find my famous ref cam. So I look forward to seeing you on there.
and yeah, make sure let him know if he's right or wrong in that. But thanks very much
Please.
for watching or listening. Please like and subscribe to both Whistle Stop Football and to REFSIX, and we'll see you at the next REFSIX pod.